Hi, Nick Byron from 360 Insights again, and wanted to continue on my video series. This time around, I'm actually going to do a two-part video, and I want to really talk about how to work with analysts and kind of the value of working with analysts and also influencers as well. And I want to do it from both an end user, but also the vendor perspective as well, because what I find is that when it comes to working with analysts, especially on the vendor side, it's something that I've seen dramatically change over the years. If I think about it, back in, say, 2006, when I was at the Aberdeen Group, what I found is that most of the organizations from a vendor side that we work with had some type of analyst relations team. And what we found is that they saw and knew how to work with analysts. They understood the benefit. And I think over time that's dramatically changed. And what I'm finding now is that actually a lot of firms don't have analyst relations departments. And in fact, a lot of organizations might have some type of focus on analyst relations, but what they do is they add that on to someone else's responsibility, whether it's on the marketing side, the product side. And what it ends up being is kind of a dual role that they may have where they have their day job, but then as their side job, they have to manage analysts. And what I find is that there's also a mixed results in terms of the understanding of the impact and how to work with analysts. So again, I just want to quickly summarize this from a vendor side, and then my next video, I'll talk about the end user side. From the vendor side, I would say the most important aspect of any analyst firm, whether it's 360 Insights or other research firms that you might be working with, is that continuous loop of communication. The reality is a lot of us research firms, we don't require any type of a subscription or money to be passed through hands to update us and brief us. And in fact, at 360 Insights, I always encourage the vendors that we work with to update us as much as possible, at least at a yearly basis. Give us a general briefing, an understanding of the direction that you're going as an organization, new wins, new updates to the products and service, updates to what your strategy is going to be, and then throughout the year, giving us continuous updates. The reality is that the more that you update us as a research firm, the more we can accurately cover you from a research perspective. And that could be either A, in our written research, because we're constantly writing about the various vendors and challenges that we're seeing and end users and success stories or whatever it might be. And the reality is if we can write about a specific vendor because it fits the right situation, we're going to do that. We're going to cover those vendors. The challenge is that if we are not being updated by certain vendors, it's very challenging for us to write about them because we don't have the most up-to-date and accurate information where others and maybe your competitors might be giving us that information. The other thing, although it's not our primary business model, we're always talking to end users. I would say, let me take a step back. When I say not our primary business model, our primary business model is not consulting end users. Our primary business model is actually providing research to help educate them around how their peers have been successful, how they can navigate certain situations, and so on and so forth. But as part of our research process, we are always talking to end users. It's actually the large majority of the way that we receive our data for the work that we publish. And I will say that it's a very common situation where we may get questions from end users about particular vendors. And the reality is that if we don't speak to you as a vendor and we're not getting those updates, it's very challenging for us to make sure that we're sharing what we believe to be the most accurate information. And quite honestly, if it's not a vendor that specific question that they're asking us, but more what type of solution would we recommend, it's not that easy for us to recommend someone that we don't actually have a continuous relationship with. So a little long-winded, but the moral of the story is the more that you're updating research firms and influencers, the more accurately we can cover you within our research or within our discussions with end users, which are happening constantly. People may not realize, but how much the analyst community, not just 360 Insights, really speaks to other end users. Another potential benefit is also partnership opportunities. We are finding that more and more vendors are looking to partner with each other to enhance their capabilities. And we are uncovering them all the time. Again, when we get asked by vendors, who should they look at? Who should they partner with? It is very difficult for us to recommend a vendor that we might have not has been spoken to, don't have that most up-to-date information with. It's much more easier for us to recommend someone that we've actually spoken to and has updated me and my team on a continuous basis. So that's another potential opportunity that would be missed if you're not even speaking to the analyst community. So what my recommendation is to kind of take a step back. At the most fundamental basis, whether it's us 360 Insights, other analysts, other influencers that might be covering your space, we highly recommend that you reach out to them, update them, give them a briefing, and then continuously update them. Make sure that they're part of the information flow of what's coming out of your organization. Another tip that I really want to give the vendor community is a trend that I've been seeing. If I go back to the days at Aberdeen, one of the things that was very, very apparent was when a vendor wanted to update the analyst, they did it one at a time. Actually, in the Boston area, we had a large grouping of analyst firms, and they would come and visit our offices when they wanted to do a briefing, and it was one-on-one. I've now started to see a trend where those one-on-one briefings are going away and going more in favor of these big group briefings. And I realize that on the vendor side, that may save a lot of time. But what I'm finding is that the interaction with the analyst is not as much as it could be when it's that open setting. Why? I have a few theories. I think one of them could be is that analysts typically want to protect the type of information that they have, or they don't want to ask a question that they think might give them information, but also give their competitive analyst information as well. There may be other aspects as well. People are more comfortable in a closed setting than they are in a big group setting where there could be 20 or 30 people on the briefing. So one of my direct recommendations is don't go the shotgun approach. When it comes to updating analysts, I really would recommend that you really go to them one on one. Spend time speaking to them one on one. And then the third tip beyond that, and it kind of goes with the briefings, is make your briefings interactive. Don't make it a 45-minute or an hour-long pitch where you are basically steamrolling the analyst, trying to get through as much of your presentation as possible. I recommend it to our analyst team that we take time to ask questions, make sure that we're getting a deeper understanding of things. And if I was to make recommendations to the vendors, is that I would recommend that you take these pauses and ask the analyst questions. This is almost like free advice where they will provide you insight and guidance based upon what they're hearing in the briefing. And you don't even have to pay for it if you're not an advisory client. I know some of the other research firms, some of the bigger companies may not do that, but if you find a lot of the firms similar to 360 Insights, we want to help. We want to provide guidance. We want to provide advice. It is sometimes very difficult if we get on a briefing and the vendor is actually going through a presentation, not taking a time to take a breath or whatever it might be. So in summary, I just want to kind of summarize this video quickly. The first thing is analysts want to help. We have a great opportunity in terms of expanding brands, expanding what's happening within the vendor community, whether it's through our written research or through our discussions with other vendors that could be partners or through end users. And it is very, very difficult for us to stay up to date if we're not being updated by the vendor, because otherwise it's via publicly available information and you can't control what that information could be. It could be your website, which could be, who knows, 3 to 6 months out of date. So first thing is start updating us as analysts. Keep us in that rotation. Again, when it comes to partnership opportunities, there's great opportunities there. And then, the other thing too is when it does come to updating us, try to stay away from that shotgun approach. Become more personalized with us. Really spend, whether it's 45 minutes to an hour, with each of the influencers or analysts that you find most relevant in your space and share that time with them, spend that time with them. And then when you're doing that presentation, make it a time that is worthwhile. Don't steamroll them. Don't spend 45 minutes straight talking. Take some time, ask questions, It's an opportunity for you to get free advice from the research community. And quite honestly, we want to help. It's just part of the nature of why we're in this business. So again, this is on the vendor side. My next video is really going to cover the analyst side, excuse me, the end user side, where I want to kind of talk about some of the aspects from an end user perspective of why you should be leveraging research firms. Thank you again. We really appreciate you taking the time.